A taste of the tropics in the form of a pound cake. This cake has coconut, crushed pineapple, pecans, topped with a coconut milk glaze. So moist and delicious. Let me show you how I made it. Start by adding 1 cup of chopped pecans to a dry skillet, and we're going to set that to the side. So I have here a can of crushed pineapple in juice. This is a 20-ounce can. And I want to start by draining at least a half a cup of this. I'm going to use the whole can of crushed pineapple, but I'm going to use it in different stages. But first, I need a half a cup of this drain. And I want to drain it really, really well because I'm going to put it in this skillet over here with the pecans to dry it out even more. This is the first stage. And I also want to reserve 1/4 cup of the juice. And we're going to open up a can of coconut milk. Now this can of coconut milk has separated, so I'm going to just give it a whisk to bring it back together. And then I'm going to use 3/4 of a cup of this coconut milk. I'm just going to add it right to the pineapple juice. That gives us a total of 1 cup of liquid for our cake batter. So that's where we're going. So a little bit of pineapple juice and mainly coconut milk is going into our cake. Now we're going to take our drained crushed pineapple and add it to the pan with our chopped pecans. We're just lightly toasting this over a low flame. This will be the topping for our cake. And we're going to put this topping right in the bottom of our bundt pan, This bundt pan has been buttered and floured, and I'm just going to add the topping right to the bottom. Once we get all of our topping in our bundt pan, we're going to just set that to the side to cool and move on to the cake. Now that is the remaining of the crushed pineapple from our 20-ounce can. We're going to drain the rest of that and also set it to the side and reserve it for our cake. So now we're going to move on to our dry ingredients. We're going to use cake flour for this recipe, and I'm using 3.5 cups of cake flour that I'm going to sift. And to this, we're going to add some baking powder as well. About 1 teaspoon of baking powder goes with the cake flour, and we're going to sift this in a separate bowl and set it to the side and come back to it in a moment. Making sure you get all of the lumps out. Also want to add about a half a teaspoon of salt to this. If you are using unsalted butter, you can go ahead and use a full teaspoon, but I will be using salted butter, so I'm just going to use a half a teaspoon. Give that a mix, and we're going to set that to the side, and we're going to get ready to move on to our butter and sugar. Now in this bowl, I have 1.5 cups of butter and 4 ounces of cream cheese in that bowl. And to that, I'm going to add 2 cups of white granulated sugar. And then I'm also going to add to that about 1/3 of a cup of light brown sugar. And again, that is 1.5 cups of softened butter and 4 ounces of softened cream cheese that's already in the bowl, 2 cups of white sugar, and 1/3 a cup of light brown, firmly packed light brown sugar. And we're going to give this a mix. We want to beat this until it is light and fluffy and well combined. Using my hand mixer here, this process took about 5 to 6 minutes to get it to where it was well combined and light and fluffy. It almost had transformed. You can kind of see the difference in how it looks and texture from when we started. So this is what we're going for, nice and smooth. Now we can begin to start to add our eggs. Altogether, I will be adding 6 room temperature eggs here, and I'm going to add these eggs one at a time. We're going to mix them well after each addition, and we also want to be sure to scrape our bowl as we go along. And again, that is 6 room temperature eggs that we're using in this cake. One at a time. Mix them well after each addition. I'm also mixing it at about a medium low speed, I would say. On the hand mixer, it was like speed 3. I'm pretty sure it was speed 3 that I was using to mix in the eggs. For the most part, this entire cake, I didn't go above speed 3 as I was mixing. It's come to a point where I even lowered the speed, I think, when I got to the flour. But for the most part, no, with the exception of when I was creaming the butter and sugar. When I was creaming the butter and sugar, I was on speed 5 with the hand mixer, but I would never do speed 5 if I was using a stand mixer. But then I lowered it to speed 3 as I was adding the eggs. So as we add the eggs, again, be sure to continue to scrape your bowl as you go along so that everything is well combined. Now, once I get all of the eggs well incorporated, I am going to add a tablespoon of vanilla extract to this. You can also add some coconut extract or some pineapple extract. At the time that I made this cake, I didn't have any of that, so I'm just going to go with starting with the flour. I added like a third of our flour mixture to the batter, and we're going to go ahead and incorporate that at a low speed. And I stopped mixing it before it was fully incorporated. Want to scrape down my bowl. And while I see just a touch of flour still that's not mixed, this is the point that I want to start adding in my liquid. So I'm going to add about half of this. Slowly, I will begin to incorporate about half of the liquid. And as I get it mixed in, once I get half of the liquid mixed in, I will go ahead and add another third of our flour. So we'll go ahead and add that in and get that mixed in. And we'll get it just mixed, and then we'll go in with the rest of our liquid mixture. So I only want to add the liquid in 2 additions, and we'll add the flour in 3 additions. And just make sure you mixing this at a medium low speed, really low. No, don't go past speed 3. I think I did this on speed 2, as I just really just took my time and make sure I got that well mixed. And then to this, I want to add a 14-ounce bag of sweetened flake coconut, the whole bag. And then we're going to add that pineapple, that crushed pineapple that we had already reserved. And then we're going to also add to that 1 cup of chopped pecans. And we're just going to mix this in by hand. You want to just fold this into your batter and stir it really well, because that coconut has a tendency to clump up, and you want to make sure that you don't have any clumps of coconut in this. Now I'm going to add this to our prepared pan, and we bake this in a preheated oven. Now, I was baking this in a gas oven, which I have not used in a while, so I lowered the temperature to 315 degrees. If I was at home making this cake, I would have baked it at 325 per usual. But it ended up baking for 1 hour and 45 minutes in at 315. If you were to do it at 325, it probably would go like an hour and 25 minutes to an hour and 30, but you're going to have to check it. Now, this is a 12 cup bundt pan, and you can see it is quite full, but it did not overflow. It actually did pretty well. And this is what it looked like when it came out of the oven. Again, it baked for an hour and 45 minutes at 315 degrees. And I let it cool in the pan for about 10 minutes before flipping it out of the cake pan. And it just turned out absolutely beautiful. I couldn't have been more pleased with the results of this cake. And you will see that once I flip this cake out of this bundt pan, the cake is absolutely gorgeous on its own. And you can serve it just like this. But I did go ahead and top it with a very light coconut milk glaze, which I will show you how I made. But here is our cake. Again, I only let it cool in the pan for 10 minutes and then I flipped it out, turned out just fine. Again, I had prepared my bundt pan with just softened butter and flour and lightly floured it. So that is our cake. Now to make our coconut milk glaze, I did melt about 2 tablespoons of butter. And to the melted butter, we're going to add 1/4 of a cup of the reserved coconut milk. And to that, we're going to add about 2 cups of powdered sugar. I did not sift the powdered sugar, but you can if you want to. So that's 2 cups of powdered sugar, 1/4 a cup of coconut milk, and 2 tablespoons of melted butter. And we're going to give this a whisk until smooth. This will start out really, really thick, but you want to keep whisking until it's really smooth and there's no lumps. And then we're going to thin this out with some of our reserved pineapple juice. Now, I did not measure this out, but I just gradually added a little bit in until I got it to the consistency that I wanted it. And again, I did know going into this I wanted a thin glaze, but I also knew that I'm going to put this on a warm cake. That alone will help thin out the glaze, and some of that glaze will help soak into the cake, just add into the coconut flavor. And you can add this glaze to the cake as little or as much as you like. When I added it to the cake, I did use all of the glaze. I just took my time and layered it on there. And as the cake began to soak it in, I just kept adding more. But it still thinned out enough to where you could still see the pineapple pecan topping that we had made. It still shows through that pattern. You'll still see it because it's nice and thin. So, and I also garnished this cake with some maraschino cherries around the bottom, which I didn't show, but that's optional. And let's go ahead and cut this cake so I can show you the inside of it. This is so delicious. And the tropical flavor of the coconut and pineapple really comes through. Using that coconut milk really helps. Very soft and very fluffy, packed full of flavor. This is my tropical paradise pound cake. Thanks for watching and happy baking.